How should we like it were stars to burn, with a passion for us we could not return? If equal affection cannot be, let the more loving one be me.
The Interplanetary Podcast. The exploration of space for the benefit of all mankind. Your hosts here in London, Matthew Russell and Jamie Franklin.
Oh, yeah, baby Valentine's.
Happy Valentine's Day, listeners.
Our listeners will always be our Valentines.
Oh, they're the ones. I mean, sure, I love Europa, but have you seen our listeners? Hello. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. And if you can't be with the one you love the one you're with.
Luther Vandross.
I love Vandross. He's my favourite alien. Love him. I'm a bit upset, but I don't need to be, do I, about the Mars rover mission?
Yes, no more opportunities for contact. That's it. Gone. NASA no longer going to attempt to contact.
Well, Matt, do you know what? Obama put up a lovely message on Instagram saying that we needn't be sad. Let's look at all the work that was done.
I mean, I genuinely would spin this that NASA's declare it that Mars rover mission is complete.
Right, I agreed.
It's got to come to a conclusion at some point.
It does.
And now they can spend some money on the next generation of rovers. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it'll be like when I don't know, I always thought I'd die at 76 years old when you're pushing me around in much better health. And, you know, I'll still be able to bang out one more podcast and then that's it. Throw me into the fire, scatter my ashes on Europa, job done.
And then we can say the Interplanetary Podcast mission was
complete. Yeah, exactly.
And no one will shed a single tear for Jamie Franklin, knowing that he lived his life to the max.
Exactly. They'll be waving flags in the street if I know Hove. So I think we should go down the list, Matt, and give people some statisticians of what the rover completed.
Okay, well, yes, of course, we're talking about Opportunity Rover, or MER-B, Mars Exploration Rover B.
Big Merb.
It arrived at the Red Planet at 12,000 miles an hour late in January 2004.
That's quick.
It's quick, isn't it?
Parachutes and airbags into Meridiani Planum.
Yes, that parachutes and airbag system was really, really cool, wasn't it? That whole thing of slowing down through the atmosphere and then deploying lots of different parachutes, then blowing up these massive airbags and then landing, and that the airbags sort of all falling away and then the rover driving off its little platform.
It's a beautiful
it's actually almost a miracle. So that was 3 weeks after the twin Spirit, which is MER-A, if anyone was wondering, 185 kilograms of rover.
Twin Spirit. That sounds like a nice cocktail, doesn't it? The mission was to last 90 sols, or, Matt, in our terms, that's 92.5 days.
But it actually lasted 5,351 sols.
Well, I'd say it's more than complete in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely smashed it, hasn't it? By
Big time.
Orders of magnitude.
So, Matt, what do you reckon the cost of it was?
Well, I actually know the answer to this because I saw a very good tweet by Casey Dreyer from the Planetary Society, which summed it up.
So it was just over 1 billion in total. And actually, even though that sounds like a lot to us, that's considered pretty cheap in the end, considering all things.
Yeah, well, that's 14 years of some of the most monumental discoveries.
Martian
first
service.
Rover to really say, yes, there was definitely liquid water on the planet.
I mean, if you take the same amount, you spent about £1 billion on your platinum-covered drones, haven't you?
Yeah, and you've spent about £1 million on your beard trimming products.
And Cuban high heels.
And snake hips belts.
Oh, you can't have enough of them. So 28 miles, it covered 28 miles. Matt, that's 2 miles more than a marathon.
It's supposed to do something like 4 kilometres or something.
This next one I love.
Mm-hmm.
Launch patch features Duck Rogers, Daffy Duck, Red Planet Gladiators. It sounds like that. If you just read that sentence as it is, it sounds like I've had a bit of a mental breakdown. I'm sort of malfunctioning, doesn't it?
But tell us some of the little way stations that it's passed.
Okay, here we go. Eagle Crater, Endurance Crater, Victoria Crater, Marathon Valley, on the edge of the huge Endeavour Crater. What's your favourite?
Isn't it?
What's your favourite crater, Matt? It's got to be Eagle, isn't it?
I think Endeavour is my favourite crater because it
Yeah?
is huge, and obviously some of the pictures as it's at Marathon Valley are just stunning.
Why are you always about size?
Because I've got an affinity to size. I'm not scared about size, Jamie.
That's so creepy. So the rover was already suffering from amnesia problems. With its arm, it was basically stumbling around on Mars like an old man, a poor old man.
So yes, unfortunately, 10th of June 2018, during that last global dust storm, that was the last anyone heard from poor old Opportunity.
Oh, so it found a rock by its heat shield that was to be the first meteorite discovered on Mars. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it was the first ever to take a selfie on the red planet.
You love a selfie stick, don't you?
Spirit landed one side of Mars, and Opportunity landed on the other side of Mars, so both sides covered. And Curiosity was on the opposite side to Opportunity. So now Opportunity's gone and Spirit has gone, of course. That's it. Curiosity remains alone. So since 2004, we've had a presence on Mars, rover presence on Mars. So now Curiosity, that's pretty stressful, isn't it? Curiosity got to keep trundling along until at least 2020, when Mars 2020 and ExoMars, of course, are all going to be landing down. Franklin, the
big time
rover named after the podcast host.
Keep it in the family, you know.
Why did they spell Jamie Rosalind?
It is weird. I mean, I'll take the surname, so I'll forgo that mistake.
That's some honour, Jamie. You must have been well chuffed.
Yeah, I mean, I just take it all in my stride. You know, in the knowledge that I'm a legend.
Yeah,
Matt, so I was wondering, and I don't know the answer to this, by the way, but how long would it take for Curiosity to crawl over to the other side of Mars and bump into one of the other two that are its decaying friends?
There you go. There's a question for our listeners. So if you think you know the answer, why don't you write in?
Yeah. Do you reckon if Curiosity found Opportunity that it would make that noise that R2-D2 makes when it's sad, you know?
I think we're back to Eve and Wall-E. Eva.
It's very sad indeed. So, Matt.
Yes.
In more news.
Well, according to a Defense Intelligence Agency report, the US could come under attack from space.
Right.
So in the report, it actually says, having seen the benefits of space-enabled operations, some foreign governments are developing capabilities that threaten others' ability to use space.
Oh.
China and Russia, in particular, have taken steps to challenge the United States and are developing new space weapons.
Sounds a bit sci-fi.
These are the scary ones, directed energy weapons.
Ooh. Well, Matt, there's only one thing for it.
Space Force.
That's the Space Force.
Kind of. Here's the weirdest one of the week. The Pentagon have decided to review Elon Musk's SpaceX getting certification for their Falcon Heavy for military payloads.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, well, SpaceX, they're not quite sure where it's come from, but it's an extra kick in the teeth because when the last procurement for NASA went through when they were looking for the next generation of rockets, ULA, Northrop Grumman and Blue Origin all received loads of money, in fact $2.2 billion, and SpaceX didn't. And the thinking was that SpaceX already had Falcon Heavy certified, so they didn't really need it. They'd already developed a rocket system.
Right.
There was a few complaints that SpaceX didn't get any money, so those complaints went through, and maybe this is some form of retaliation for that.
I think you're right.
Seems all a little bit harsh. They actually must be quite worried in the old SpaceX office about that, because that's a big revenue earner for them.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall.
And in other news as well, another big procurement thing that's coming up.
Here we go.
This is actually genuinely really exciting. And actually, it's the first time I've actually felt positive, really, about the Lunar Gateway.
Here we go. Tell me.
So, yeah, NASA have released their broad agency announcement asking the US aerospace industry for its help to develop large landers as early, get this, as 2028 to carry astronauts to the surface of the moon. Yeah.
I mean, you haven't been the biggest fan of the Gateway, but this is big news.
Yeah, it really is, actually. I think this is bigger news than probably the press had us that have kind of reported it. Because
the agency expects to send people back to the moon with what it calls, and I quote, a human landing system. I like that.
HLS.
HLS.
Sort of goes with SLS, HLS.
So what's phase A going to be?
So NASA's going to hand out $300,000 to $9 million rewards and awards for people who are putting up these various ideas for one or all three of the following elements.
Here we go.
A transfer vehicle, which obviously carries this descent and ascent vehicle into lunar orbit from the Lunar Gateway.
Yeah.
So you go from the Lunar Gateway into a different lunar orbit ready for landing. So that's your transfer vehicle. Then you have your descent vehicle, which actually lands on the surface of the moon. And then you've got your ascent vehicle, which is part of that descent vehicle that comes back up again, just like the Apollo missions. And there's loads of money up for grabs to develop that. And then a few companies, or maybe one or two, will be picked to receive hundreds of millions of dollars to develop those systems. And those companies that are picked are expected to put up another sort of 20% of their money as part of this private-public partnership.
Do you think, if you were a betting man, Matthew, what do you reckon that the Interplanetary podcast will receive? 300 grand or 9 million?
I think if we put in a decent enough bid, it should be the full 9 million.
Well, I don't see why not.
No, exactly. So, that goes out to the listeners as well. If you're a patron, and you're part of our team, and we develop something nice, then obviously you take a share of that 9 million as we develop our lunar lander systems.
Well, I think we should start tweeting your local Congress man or woman, and putting our case forward.
Now, Jamie, I would have to say all this new attention on the moon and essentially Mars being completely now forgotten about, because even SpaceX, by the way, are going to put forward a bid for this lunar lander. Of course
they are.
Well, what's really weird, I'm not sure, of course they are, is actually is not necessarily true, because of course they're designing Starship, which wouldn't be part of this system. The lunar lander in this system would be part of the Gateway and SLS and all that. So it would have to be a completely different design to their Starship. So SpaceX obviously could get to the moon using their Starship system, and that's kind of what they've been saying, but
it is. I wish everybody good luck. This is exciting news. Everyone's gone moon crazy.
Which means that the whole Mars thing is a complete non-starter now, which leads me on to my next story, Jamie. And in some ways, I think it's good riddance to slightly bad rubbish, really.
Here we go.
Is the death of Mars One, the company Mars One. Now, apparently Mars One Foundation is still going, so it's the commercial arm that has gone bankrupt. But yes, thankfully, Mars One is dead, and not the ridiculous bunch of people that may have all lost their lives in a hideous manner going to Mars to record a reality TV show.
Absolutely. I think we should get back to reality.
There's one more piece of space news that I've stuck in the wrong place, Jamie.
Oh, go on.
And that is the ludicrous Ultima Thule shocker.
Oh, yes.
This is actually amazing. So
this is big.
And it's a really good optical illusion as well. What we perceived as a snowman with our eyes when we saw that picture, when Ultima Thule picture came back, we kind of just we was deceived into thinking they were spherical bodies touching each other, and so it looked like a snowman. But thankfully, New Horizons, as it whizzed by, took a photo facing backwards and had captured the crescent of Ultima Thule. The scientists have been able to work out the shape of the object due to the way that it's obscuring stars in these several shots. And it turns out that Ultima Thule is more pancake and walnut shaped.
Yeah, they're a bit more pebble-like, aren't they?
Yeah, well, they're like skimming pebbles.
I was just going to say exactly that. I love a good skim.
Yeah, there's a great beach from where I am to do a bit of skimming.
Oh,
in fact,
just down the road from me. I got 7 the other day, 7 in a row.
12 I got the other day.
What?
In front of my kids. They were very impressed.
I call bullshit. I'm going to have to talk to him.
No, I am blooming good at... we call it ducks and drakes.
Ducks and drakes, interesting.
Ducks and drakes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So these objects are really strange. It's nothing like Churyumov, Chervisemenko. Never really seen objects like this. And that on the sort of tail of Oumuamua, which is also bizarrely shaped. So maybe bizarre shaped objects are the thing.
I just think it's very on vogue to be bizarre, a bizarre shaped object in the universe. You know, I am definitely one.
Jamie.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a space word of the week to introduce our special today, which is all about Orbex.
Is it space words of the week again?
It is a bit space words of the week. Sorry.
Space words of the week
is small sat launcher. What is a small sat launcher or a small lift orbital launch vehicle?
I'll tell you what it is. It's beautiful.
They are beautiful because we stood next to an engineering prototype, didn't we, Jamie, this week?
It kind of blew our minds just to see it. And then it blew our minds again when we were told that it was the biggest 3D printed engine ever.
Right, so yes, a small lift orbital launch vehicle, anything up to 2 tons to low Earth orbit. First example being Korolov's Sputnik rocket that took up Sputnik, of course.
Yes.
And then the Vanguard rocket by the USA. And that obviously kickstart the space race. The UK have got a bit of a heritage in this. We had the Black Arrow, which carried 73 kilograms to low Earth orbit.
That's right.
Of which Sky Roar are using very similar technology to the Black Arrow. Ariane's Vega is also a small lift rocket, but it's 10 times the lift of Orbex. Oof. So this is what the CEO of Elecna Demos, one of the partners and customers, Miguel Belomora, said.
I'm looking forward to this Spanish accent. Off you go, Matt.
Despite this being the first time that most people have heard of Orbex, they have quietly and diligently reached a point where they are arguably already leading European space launch company.
It sounded one of the Three Amigos. I liked it.
So yeah, there's a few on the market at the moment. There's Vector, which are still in development phase. In China, we have a similar rocket in OneSpace, their OS-M1. Mm-hmm. Then there's Rocket Lab's Electron, and that's, I think, that's the one that's leading the pack at the moment.
That's the daddy.
Yeah, that is the daddy, isn't it? iSpace have got the Hyperbola one. Mm-hmm. And Landspace, another Chinese one, like iSpace, the Zook one. So quite a few. And of course, Spain have the Miura 5, which used to be called the Arion or 2 or something.
See.
It's worth noting, actually, that we mentioned Firefly, but Firefly used to be in this category of sort of 200 to 400 kilograms to get into space. But they've decided to go a little bit heavier. They've decided to move out of that area and be about 5 times bigger, about a ton into space. And they reckon they can get it to $15,000 a kilogram compared to Rocket Lab's $25,000 per kilogram.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, so Firefly have kind of stepped out of that market. And if you want to read a brilliant article about Firefly, you should check out Eric Berger's article that he did on Ars Technica.
Go check our man
week.
Eric.
It's really good. Anyway, so I'm going to compare quickly Orbex to Electron, right?
You better.
So Orbex is 19 meters in height, whereas Electron is 17 meters in height. So it's a couple of meters taller. diameter is slightly bigger as well. It's 10 centimetre bigger diameter, 1.3 instead of 1.2. And it's considerably heavier, 18,000 kilograms, whereas your mass of your electron is 12,500 kilograms. Now, obviously, the electron details are a lot more in stone because, of course, it's actually flying, whereas the Orbex one, these are still guesstimates. But they carry a similar payload up into space.
This is exciting, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, the interesting thing about Electron, of course, is that they've said that they're looking at launching from Sutherland Spaceport as well, Sutherland being the Scottish spaceport. So they're looking... Well, so they could, of course, be there on as competitors right on the same spaceport, whereas Orbex look like they're trying to launch from Sutherland Spaceport and the Azores. But it's worth noting that neither the Sutherland Spaceport or the Azores Spaceport actually have full planning permission.
I was just going to say, it's not confirmed yet. They seem very confident.
They do
Everyone
seem very
in Forest seems, apart from a few locals, seem very, very happy that this is obviously going to put them on the map and bring lots of money, needed money, to the area. We heard about schools closing and, not many jobs in the area. I think this is going to be a great thing, especially considering that it's going to be about 6 launches a year. I think, why wouldn't you want that?
The largest 3D printed engine, and that was done by a company called SLM on their SLM 800. They reckon that cuts down on 90% turnaround time, so it actually is a much quicker process. And 50% saving in costs.
Where do I sign?
Well, you can sign on the dotted line.
Sign on the Cala gas tank. Love it.
Yeah, that is cool, isn't it? The fact that the whole thing runs on Cala gas.
We both got nostalgic, didn't we? Our childhood barbecues are now powering small satellite launchers.
Jamie, shall we just have a listen to Chris Larmour's interview and then we'll play Graham Turnock?
I don't want to wait any longer because this interview was one of my favourites of the last few years.
It was really good, wasn't it?
Let's roll the tape.
So, Ekute.
The Interplanetary Podcast, putting the ace back into space.
Okay, well, we're here with Chris Larmour, CEO of Orbex. Thank you for inviting us to your beautiful new facility. How are you?
I am having a long evening.
I bet you are. How are you feeling? I'm sure you're feeling better now your speeches are done.
Actually, I wasn't nervous at all today because, we live with that thing you saw earlier day by day. So for us, it's quite sort of commonplace. I was more nervous really about the food tonight than I was about the space stuff.
And how hard has it been to keep that secret for such a long time?
Well, Orbex, we keep things pretty quiet anyway. We quite often tweet pictures of sofas and carpet tiles rather than the rocket technology. But actually, that's been a big help to the company because we are working quite hard behind the scenes on real space hardware, as you saw earlier. And we get a lot of support and credibility from an awful lot of people that were in that room tonight by keeping quiet about that and working seriously. So actually, the keeping quiet thing is, it's not that we're super secretive, it's just we just don't think what we're working on is super interesting. I know that sounds weird, but it's true. Yeah. We're a very low ego company, honestly. There's no sort of. I mean, I happen to be speaking to you tonight because it's my job, but I would prefer not to be perfectly honest.
Sure. We understand.
But the one thing we've noticed, and since Farnborough, since we first heard about you, we literally was after that Farnborough announcement, is what is it that you've got that's special, that's allowed all this kind of very big investment to come your way? What do you think it is that? Yeah. That is the magic moment, the killer app that Orbex has.
Yeah, so quite often in this sector, you get enthusiasts who want to build a rocket, and they miss a few of the key ingredients in building a business. Now, I come at this as someone who I've never even been to a live engine test so far in the history. We've been firing engines for 2 years. I've never been to one because I would be a distraction for the engineers. And honestly, I've got more important things to do in terms of fundraising and stuff like that than watching an engine test. I can watch the video. So what is the secret of the company? We have 3 types of people in this company. We have people with a pedigree in really hardcore European space engineering in Ariane 5, Ariane 6. We hired away one of the turbo engineers from Ariane 6 recently, and one of the software engineers from Ariane 6. They were probably pretty unhappy about that, but the other group of people is people who've built rockets with their own hands. Some of them come out of the Copenhagen Suborbitals program. Now, it's an amateur effort, but the skills that they've developed, the kind of fingertip knowledge that they've developed is really, really useful on a practical, everyday basis, because they've failed several times to build rockets and they know what doesn't work. And that's half the battle. That's what gives us pace. We know how to translate the brain power of the designers into pragmatic solutions that fit and work in the real world. And then you have people like me and the board members who know how to raise money, because I helped build and sell 5 companies already. And one of my board members has early shares in Spotify. So he did very well out of that last year.
Not bad.
And other people like that who understand the commercial aspect of the company. So we've got these 3 legs to the stool: the brain power, the muscle power, and then the kind of exploitative commercial arm. And I think that's very rare that you get those 3 things in a company in this sector. And in fact, I think a lot of my personal view is a lot of space sector companies fail because you end up with only 2 out of those 3. You have a marketing guy who wants to build a rocket, or you have a rocket guy who wants to build a rocket, and they never meet each other. In this company, we're quite fortunate that we have those 3 elements. I think that is our secret sauce, if you want to.
Yeah. And what would you say over the next 10 years are your main goals here?
Well, I'd like to get that rocket to orbit. That's my number 1 goal right now. Beyond that, I couldn't tell you, honestly. It's the only goal we have, is to get that rocket to orbit successfully.
And a timeline for that?
Well, we want to launch late 2021. I don't know when we'll actually achieve orbit. I mean, I think this sector is littered with with people making predictions of when they're going to launch. So I guarantee, whatever I say, I'll be wrong. Guarantee it. But we fully expect some failure along the way. That's for sure. I just hope it's not super embarrassing failure. That's the main goal from my point of view, from the PR point of view, right? Yeah, sure. But the engineers are I think one of the kind of the things that we see when we go and meet people, when we raise money or we go to grant committees and stuff, the technical team is mega credible. And there is no doubt when you meet those people that you know exactly what they're doing. Perhaps you get a time later on with the CTO, Jonas. There's no arguing with that guy. He has 50 spacecraft out there right now with his hardware on it. What domain expertise does a venture capitalist have to tell him he's wrong? Yeah, it's very hard to argue. And so I think those kind of skills and capabilities come together, and we deliver. We deliver on our promises. When we say we're going to deliver on a milestone, we pretty much always deliver on time. And that's why we won that backing from the UK Space Agency last year, when everybody went Lockheed Martin and who? Right? Yeah. That moment, I mean, I'm not surprised, because who was Orbex then? Yeah. It still is now. We're still an early stage, young company, and we could very easily fail, right? I mean, we're all aware of that risk.
Yeah. But today's put a big stamp on that to say we're here, we're serious, and you need to think of us as a big player in this industry. I mean, the rocket alone is amazing. Would you be able to go into a bit more detail about the 3D printing and the biopropane?
Yeah, so, I mean, if you think about, this all started really about thinking about the problem of micro launchers, which is they're quite heavy as a class. And that's driven by the square cube law of the surface area of the structure and the volume it contains. The bigger you get, the more efficient you are. And conversely, as you get smaller, the less efficient you are. We actually got a nice graph with a line showing, Saturn V and Falcon 9 and us, right? So we were looking for ways to kind of get rid of that mass challenge, to reduce the mass so that we get the performance up. And propane is the way we do that. Propane has a unique property, which is that it doesn't freeze when you chill it to the same temperature as liquid oxygen. So what we've developed is a coaxial tank, where you have a propane tank contained within a jacket of LOX. And that's the format. You have this coaxial tanking structure. So you do away with one of the cryogenic systems. You use the LOX to chill the propane directly. You don't need a very strong inner tank. In fact, you want as minimal tank as possible to allow heat transfer. So that drives a lot of mass out in terms of insulation, the tank structure itself, the piping between the various stages, and interstage, insulation mass, all kinds of stuff go away from that. You can also gather all of the connections directly at the bottom of the tanks in one place. You don't need to pipe them around and through and over. It's there, right at the engine immediately. If you look at the engine, you can see it. And then in terms of the characteristics of propane, when you chill it, it densifies. And actually, at that stage, it's about 2% more powerful than RP1. Yeah, Yeah, volumetrically, it's 2% better than RP1. It's not much, but it's at least as good. Yeah. So that's good. And then it gives us other benefits in terms of building the turbo pump. We can run a very low temperature turbo pump. It's about half the temperature of a standard turbo pump, which allows us to use materials that are of a lower grade, almost automotive quality. We can certainly 3D print them. And we can do it in a way that's more cost effective, it's more reliable. There's not some high stress or high thermal gradients across shafts and things like that. So it becomes more doable for a company of this size. And there are other benefits, like propane is non-coking. And our supplier, Caller, we announced with Caller today, they're supplying us with clean propane. It's no stenchants in it, no butane in it. And that means it's definitely non-coking, so the engines will be reusable if we recover them, when we recover them. Yeah. We recover them.
I was going to get onto that one.
Yeah, we'll come to that in a minute. But the plan is to recover them, because they're a significant chunk of the cost of a launcher. So if we can get them back clean and with no dents in them, that would be actually quite good to do. And we have a plan to do that. So there's a lot of benefits to propane. And you only get to that solution by thinking, like, what's wrong with the current solution? How can we do it differently that actually helps us? And I think that drives a lot of things in Orbex. And people think we take risks on the tech, and actually we really don't. It looks like a rocket. Yeah. Outside, you wouldn't know looking at it. It looks like a normal rocket. It's just inside there's a few tweaks and optimizations and refinements and rethinking of things that make it a bit more elegant and suitable for that class of vehicle. Just that specific micro launcher class.
Was there a pool of expertise that knew about propane and the use of propane that you tapped into? Or
Not really, no. It's our CTO came up with the idea. I think I would credit him with the idea, although lots of other people have added to it in the meantime. And I don't think there's very much literature on propane. It certainly hasn't been used in spaceflight to our knowledge. I mean, there are some early studies on the combustion properties of propane from NASA way back when. But in terms of modern literature, we think we're kind of writing the story there at the moment.
And we love that it's Calagas because it's taking us back to the 70s of when we had barbecues and cams.
Well,
logo.
Yeah. It is, and it's for Caller, I think it's quite an aspirational thing because they're associated with heating and camping, and now they're transporting mankind's dreams to the stars.
Fantastic.
It's a nice story. Yeah.
So is the reason why we're re-looking at things like propane is the fact that launchers are getting smaller because satellites are getting smaller? Is that one of the sort of driving factors of that?
Well, a small company can't build an Ariane 5 or an Ariane 6. The capital needed is ridiculous. Even SpaceX started with a small launcher. I know where it is now. Right? Now, we don't have ambitions to be SpaceX, but there's a certain scale that fits in a hall of that size. That's doable with a certain amount of millions and without nation state kind of coffers. And that's, I think, what drives that. But it just so happens there's a market demand for small satellite launch that is not being served by the big launchers. And there are really good reasons for that. Honestly, people talk about this sector as low cost, but that's not the driver. It's lack of availability that's the driver. There is plenty of capacity on big launchers, but if you've got a $300 million communication satellite, you do not want a student CubeSat potentially spanging out and ruining it. And they just say, no, even if there's spare capacity. I mean, people literally fly sand as ballast, literally, to avoid taking additional payloads.
It's an expensive journey for the sand.
Oh yeah, I don't know what happens to it on the way down either. Little meteorites.
This is it. Now, we wanted to ask a bit about the reusability and the lack of space junk that there will be with your rockets. Can you elaborate on that?
In a very light, we don't talk. We've done a lot of work on that, but we prefer not to talk about it because we think it's quite easy to copy. We've got patents pending on it, but we still think it's easy to copy, so we prefer not to talk about it. Again, the challenge is you can't add a lot of mass because that eats directly into the payload mass. So how do you solve that? How do you get reusability without adding legs and parachutes and all kinds of stuff? Well, we think we've cracked that particular problem, or at least we've got a solution that looks like it works in various aerodynamic studies and wind tunnel studies we've done, and we're at full-scale studies now of some of the components. And the trick for us is a soft landing on ocean. It's easy to get the rocket back into the ocean, but it might not be in one piece when it lands. That's straightforward. Getting it back in one piece is the trick, and creating that soft landing so you can recover and reuse at least some of the key subsystems. We may not be able to reuse all of it, but certainly we want to get the power pack back, the 6-pack. So that's the goal really, and the design kind of requirement is the recovery of that engine pod. The tank, is sort of, if we don't get it back or if it gets dinged, we're not too concerned about that. But the engines are valuable.
Yeah. So in terms of we saw obviously the prime, the second stage is correct. The booster part of it, presumably, all of this entire rocket is all built by Orbex, including the engines themselves.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, we're investing in 3D printing, metal 3D printing machines to do it all in-house right now. Yeah, that's a lot of money right there.
Yeah. So where were the display model we just saw, which is presumably almost a working rocket?
All of the components on there are completely real, and some of them have been used live and tested live. Flight computer, engine, thrust vectoring, the tanks, all of it's real.
So where was that 3D printed?
So that particular engine was printed in Germany, and we had to get export certificates to move the CAD files, and then export certificates to get the engine back. We had to get an export certificate to get the engine back here. So we have to watch out for our export control laws, even in Europe. And ultimately, the engines were produced in Denmark, and we have an engine test site in Denmark as well, where we fire the engines up, and we're looking at another engine test site here locally as well to do 6-pack testing.
Is that where the wind tunnels and everything else are?
No, the wind tunnel's in the UK. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say who did that, because I think we have an NDA, but it was a very professional hypersonic wind tunnel in the UK.
Can we go in and try that ourselves? That sounds fun.
I could put you in touch with... I wouldn't say we work with that guy, but I know a man who's got one.
Sure.
I wouldn't confirm or deny if we worked with that guy, but I know a man who's got one.
Fantastic. That you've thrown my train of thought now.
I apologise. It just looked too much fun in my head.
Reuse we were talking about, I think, and there's you had another part to your reuse question, I think.
Yeah, well, it was the 3D. So the 3D printed which is the largest. You said it was
we
the
believe
largest.
It's the largest
3D.
single piece. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's actually being fired as well as a rocket engine. Yeah.
I don't know the current status, but that's not the only engine we've got like that, and some of them are in different stages of development. If you looked on that version down there, you would have noticed a helium loop. Did you see the loop going around the... So that's a helium heat exchanger for heating the helium to pressurize the tanks. In the latest versions of the engine, that's built in to the 3D printing version of it. So we're refining things because you can do it, right? Why not print it?
Yeah.
There's no extra real time or material involved, and it saves a lot of complexity later. So we're doing refinements like that now and firing them up.
Do the engines have a name?
No.
They don't?
No.
Because we like things like Prometheus.
Interplanetary podcast engine.
The Franklin. I know that's too much like
true.
Too much like a Mars lander.
I don't know, we're very low ego on that front. I mean, we could have named it after a famous physicist or something, but they've already got lots of stuff named after them.
Yeah. Never mind. This morning I was doing some research for today, and I watched a YouTube video about Orbex. And
Really?
The first comment was somebody moaning about how launches should be closer to the equator.
Yeah.
Now we know that this comes up a lot, but once and for all, can we say why that's invalid?
Yeah, well, we've got a video for that we put out today as part of our media pack, and you'll find an unbranded version of that if you want to put it on your website. So if you want to go to equatorial or transfer orbits, the equator is a great place to launch from. But we don't want to go there. We want to go pole to pole, and our customers want to go pole to pole. Why do they want to go pole to pole? Because as you go in a plane from pole to pole and the Earth spins underneath you, you can cover the entire planet in a few days. So if you're doing Earth observation or communications, that's what you want. If you go equatorial, you can't do that. So for our purposes, for our needs, launching from Scotland to the north, or perhaps from the Azores to the south, into sun-synchronous or polar orbits is exactly what we need. And so for certain types of launches, the equator is irrelevant.
Yeah.
And that's the case for us. I don't think that will kill it. That question will come up forever and ever, but that's my attempt to kill it.
Yes, we're going to help promote that message.
Yeah. So Sutherland's not the only launch site for Orbex.
So Sutherland still has to go through planning permission, which we think it's got a good chance of getting. I think there's really strong support from the Scottish Government and Highlands Alliance Enterprise and various other parties, but it still has to get through planning and then be built. So to mitigate our commercial risk, because we're a commercial organisation, I get fired if we don't launch and make money, right? So we've also been shortlisted for the Azores launch site, And we're working with another site in Norway to see what we can do there. In fact, I think we've moved forward a few steps with that in the past few days. So there's two parts to that. One is to mitigate the risk of Sutherland not proceeding. Hopefully it will. I mean, that's what we'd like. But if it doesn't, I need to have other plans. And if it does, then we've got other options for capacity, because you do hear some bizarre volume calculations from very exuberant parties out there saying they're going to be launching twice a minute or whatever. But we're a bit more conservative. We think we'll be launching roughly once a month. And some of the months in the year you won't be able to launch because of weather or whatever, or technical issues. So we think 10 to 12 launches a year from a single site is about the limit. And therefore, if you want to launch 36 or 48 a year, I think you see it now with Rocket Lab. They're expanding to other launch sites, right? And Wallops and what have you. You just need it for capacity.
Have there been many concerns from the locals about these launches?
Honestly, I've spent a lot of time up there. I was up there earlier this week. The overwhelming, and I mean 90% plus of people are highly positive about this launch site. There is a small group of people who are very loud, but there's really a handful of people, I think, who are very set against it. And my personal point of view, the first question I ever asked when I went up to Sutherland, it's a really beautiful place. And I said to them, are you sure you would like a spaceport here? And the local people surprised me with their answer, which was that they felt their community was at risk of dying because there was no economic opportunity for kids to stay there. The schools were closing, the bank had closed, and their way of life was under threat. So they were looking for economic opportunity. And given the footprint of this, which I can show you an image later, if you take the footprint of like the Mahia launch complex in New Zealand and you put it on the Moyne, it's like a dot. Mm. You know, they literally have a rubbish tip on the Moyne that's bigger.
And if it's once a month,
yeah,
it's not too in your face, is it?
Well, I mean, you know, I think there are people with genuine concerns, and they should definitely be heard, and those concerns should be mitigated, no question. And we want to. I've often said, you know, we want to be a member of that community because there's a fair chance some of my engineers will be marrying locally at some point down the line. Sure. So we don't really want to be an enemy of the local community. We want to be part of the local community, and that means listening to everybody and trying to sort of accommodate all views and wherever possible. But it's not up to me whether that launch site goes ahead or not. That's a planning process. There are other parties involved. I'm not even directly responsible for it. That's High's project, not mine. I built launchers. Yeah. So I really hope it goes ahead because it'd be great.
I've got one last question, and that's to do with really what you said earlier on about there isn't really the launch vehicles at the moment for this small satellite market, but there does seem to be an awful lot of them in the pipeline. Yep. Is that a major concern, or do you actually thrive on that competition, or see yourselves actually a little bit ahead of the pack?
So this comes back to being silent. So there are an awful lot of parties, groups, organisations out there who say they want to build a small launcher. Probably more than 100 now. But if you start filtering on who's got the money, who's got the experience, who's got the access to facilities and resources, who has a nice desk like this, you quickly filter down to a handful of companies globally. A lot of those are in the USA. I mean, there are obvious candidates like Firefly and Vector. I wouldn't put Vector in that class yet. They haven't done. We'll see. Virgin Orbit, very serious, I think. And Rocket Lab, obviously, have trailblazed the entire sector. I mean, kudos to Rocket Lab. Great respect for everything that Peter Beck's done there. Really awesome. And I wish them all the success in the world, really. The Rocket Lab, I'm almost a fanboy of what they've done there, to be honest. But then if you look in Europe, I think in Europe we are certainly one of the leading companies, if not the leading company now. And then in China, there are 2 or 3 companies that are coming along, like Landspace and OneSpace and these kind of companies. But certainly within Europe, I think we've got a niche that we can create for a European launch that where I think we're a very strong position and possibly a leader. And that's my goal, is a European launch capability. I don't really care too much about the American market, to be honest. It's not really in focus.
Exactly. Now, I wanted to ask something just outside of Orbex. What's the most exciting thing for you in 2019 that is penciled in?
A holiday would be nice.
You're not going to get one of them.
No, you're absolutely right.
No chance.
I look forward to Saturday and Sunday because I can get my work done. Let's think. Well, we've got some news this week that we're not announced today. That's quite good, I think. Well, we'll come out with that a little bit later on. There's small things make us smile in Orbex. It's really interesting. We're not really so impressed by the hype and the big stuff. Honestly, this company is very low ego, and it's really productive. It's one of the few companies I've been in where there aren't these kind of political fights going on. It's very collegiate. People work very well together, and we get stuff done because we focus on the real work that moves the company forward, and not kind of the ego moments. And this today is very unusual for Orbex, really it is. And I don't think we'll do another one for a while. But the core focus is building a rocket that will go to orbit. That's the thing we have to do, because without that, what do we got? Some carbon fiber and some metal, and probably it's not very valuable at that point either. Yeah. So the focus is get to orbit, get the resources in place to do that. We're growing. People, resources, facility like this, support customers now as well. That today for me was the most impressive part of the day, that customers are willing to sign up with us 3 years ahead of a launch for a rocket that at best only half exists. Right? Sure. So that's actually, for me, our head of sales, Jan Skolny, has done an excellent job there.
That speaks volumes. So where can our listeners go to get more information about Orbex and the future? Yeah,
well, our Twitter feed, Orbex Space, at Orbex Space is one word, or www.orbex.space, not .com. Very modern and newfangled. Half my emails don't get through the email service with that .space on the end. That's where you can find out most things. And then, listening to great podcasts, like the Interplanetary podcast, which I listen to religiously.
I was terrified coming up the stairs because you said that we were slightly disparaging after Farnborough, but I can't remember what we said.
Well, I think you looked at it and said, this company. Well, I think Scott Manley has also been a little bit kind of skeptical. I think that's perfectly fair, right? We're a very young company and not much is known about us, and we keep fairly quiet. So if you look at the website, it's a few renderings and what have you. Yeah. But it's deliberate that we keep quiet. So we have a few small rules in the company. I won't go to all of them, but quite often you hear the engineers talk about Rule 3. Can I swear on your podcast?
Yeah, you certainly
okay. Yeah. So Rule 3 is don't fuck it up.
That works.
Now, what does that mean in real terms? It means we've been given a great opportunity here. People are entrusting us with money and resources and opportunity, the chance, probably of a lifetime, to do this, that many people would die to do, give their right arms to be doing. Don't fuck it up. You won't get a second shot. Do your job. We depend on each other. I do my job, you do your job. I don't need to be checking you twice. That is an ethos here. And you will be in engineering meetings and you'll hear people say Rule 3, and the room will stop and think about what they need to think about under Rule 3. It happens day after day. It's weird.
We need to start saying that to each other. Especially with recording.
What on earth is Rule 1 and Rule 2?
Well, I can tell you, Rule 1 is no jail time. Because when I got into this, I didn't know much about the sector, but I quickly figured out there were export controls rules that could put the CEO in jail. So Rule 1 was no jail time. If there's a law, we're going to follow it. And we're going to get legal advice to figure out what the rules are that apply, and we're going to make sure that for the filling out of a form, nobody's doing 10 years in pokey.
It's a different kind of holiday. Yeah.
So that was a very early rule. The rules kind of evolved over time, but Rule 3 is like the high runner. Rule 2 is another one entirely. But
I like the way you're deciding whether to tell us
more swearing involved in Rule 2 probably.
We'll get you a couple of drinks. We'll ask you again in the morning.
Yeah, it's not that bad, but I just I'll keep something for next time.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant.
We might be on Rule 4 by next time.
Yeah, we could have a Rule 2 special.
We could do.
Rule 2 special. Quite like that.
Well, thank you so much for your time. We know you're a busy man.
No problem.
We wish you all the luck in the world.
Thank you very much indeed. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate your interest. And I have to say your podcast is, I've listened to several episodes, not just the one looking at us. And there was one, it was a 2-part, and it was looking at reaction engines, if I remember correctly.
Alan Bond,
That's right, Alan Bond. That was super fascinating to listen to.
Thank you for letting us.
No problem at all. Yeah. Always welcome.
Great. Thank you.
Well, whenever we're opening the doors, you're welcome. We don't open them that often, so make the most of it while you're here.
Yeah,
no problem. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
The Interplanetary Podcast is alive!
I got an extremely good vibe off Chris Larmour.
I think he is just the man to launch Orbex into the stratosphere.
Yeah,
excellent job, and what a cool guy.
Yeah, I really like that whole modest approach. I can't believe they haven't got a name for the engines. Like, everyone names their engine something.
Well, I liked that he asked us if he could swear.
Yeah.
We haven't had that before. That's
No,
brilliant.
no. Yeah,
He's
it's
bringing
good.
some rock and roll to the podcast, some much needed grit. So, Matt, not only did we just have that awesome interview with Chris Larmour, we now have an interview with the head of the UK Space Agency, Mr. Graham Turnock, who is also a lovely bloke. And I think he had some good things to say. So, should we have a listen?
Do it. Écoutez.
We're here at the Orbex launch of their new facility, and they surprised us with a nice reveal of their prime rocket. Are you excited about the UK space industry as it is now, in terms of it's obviously getting some momentum, isn't it?
Goodness, how could you not be excited after what we've just seen? Unfortunately, this is audio, but I hope you'll be able to put up a photo of the Stage 2 rocket that we've just looked at. I mean, I grew up in the 70s. We had the Americans doing everything in those days. The space shuttle was starting to come on stream. And just for the fact that we are now doing launch from the UK alongside all our other achievements on communications, satellites, etc., is just astonishingly exciting. Yeah, really excited.
Obviously, amongst space geeks, we're suddenly very excited, particularly since Farnborough and the announcements there. But is it a message that you think's got out to the wider general public, or do you think there's actually a hell of a lot of work to actually do there?
Well, I mean, in some ways, the whole Galileo debate last year, I think, shone a very positive light on the UK space sector. I think people woke up to the fact that it was important, and the UK had real strengths in it. Of course, we've had Tim Peake and his flight on the space station. I think that really made a big impact as well. So I think we're doing pretty well, actually. And the publication of our Size and Health report last week, which showed how strongly the UK space sector is growing, I think is another, thing that people will have picked up. So I hope we're making that impact. Obviously, people will think of NASA immediately when they think of space, but I hope they're starting to think about the European and the UK space agencies as well.
And we were hearing earlier about the extra jobs that's going to be coming to the UK and, of course, Scotland. What do you think it would look like in 50 years' time of the changes that might have happened?
Wow, 50 years, that's a long way ahead. I mean, we tend to think about 10 years ahead, and over the next 10 years, we're really looking to build the space sector by another 30,000 jobs. So we're currently at about 40,000 jobs. I mean, in 50 years' time, I guess things like suborbital spaceflight will become, like going to Malaga is today. There'll be kind of hen nights and stag nights doing it. And I'm sure, we will have a lot of satellites in orbit doing just amazing things and making us an even more connected world than we are currently. And who knows, we may have humans on Mars in 50 years' time. So, that's an amazingly exciting prospect, isn't it?
And how important is it about the announcements of the green energy? So the biopropane and the lighter rockets, therefore becoming more efficient, and how important is that to the sector?
Well, I think it's important for two reasons. I mean, one, because, the commercial launch sector, I think, is going to be quite competitive. And if you can be lighter and more efficient, you've got an edge there. You'll be able to offer launch at a reduced, more competitive rate. But also, clearly, environmental matters are to the forefront of everybody's minds. And, biopropane is a very environmentally friendly fuel. And therefore, that's going to make it a lot easier when it comes to things like environmental impact assessments from the launch site. So I think it's really positive.
From a government perspective, is it really sort of, is the main priority now sort of carving out legislation and getting the legislation right for the UK space launch?
So I think really important that we got the Space Industries Act through earlier in the year, and we're now very much looking to turn that into hands-on regulation. So the companies and the spaceport will be needing to get licenses, and we're putting in place the team that will be able to provide those licenses to them. So yeah, that's really important. We see it one as the major advantages of the UK, that we've got really a world-leading regulatory environment to support launch and other space activities.
So at the moment, we've got the sort of two main launch centres as Sutherland and Down in Spaceport Cornwall. Are there going to be others coming online, and which do you think is going to be the first to actually get an orbital launch up?
Well, I think Spaceport Sutherland is obviously extremely well placed. It's got funding in place. We're supporting it, and it's obviously got Lockheed Martin and Orbex looking very much to launch from it. So I think it's in prime position. But obviously, as you've mentioned, there are sites looking to do horizontal launch. There are also sites in Scotland like Campbelltown and Prestwick. They're looking to do horizontal as well. There are others that are interested in vertical. So, I mean, from our perspective, we're just so pleased that so many people are looking to do launch in so many different ways from the UK.
Would you say there's anywhere specific that some of our listeners can go to if they're interested about getting into the space sector, maybe working in engineering or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, if you just want a great day out and you want to engage with the space sector, I'd say go to Leicester, go to the National Space Centre there. You can see Blue Streak, you can see, a British rocket, and you can find out a huge amount about space. Or go to the Science Museum. It's got a really great space gallery there as well. I mean, obviously, if you're a young person, you want to get into space, then start looking at opportunities to do secondments. There are some really good websites out there. Space Careers, which was started by somebody who's now working for us in the space agency, is a really good website with lots of tips there.
Thank you very much. We won't waste any more of your time.
Well, it's a pleasure.
Thank you very much for taking time out of your drink to speak to us.
Good to speak to you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Exciting times for the UK space scene, isn't it?
Do you know what? I think possibly the greatest thing about it is that they announced that they're going to be working with Surrey Satellites. So not only did I make the journey from Guildford to Orbex the other day, so will the first launch do exactly the same journey as I made. But the really exciting part about it is that it will be a monumental first. It's going to be UK's end-to-end launch capability with a UK rocket launching a UK satellite from a UK spaceport.
It speaks volumes about where we are in the global community. And long may it continue. It's really exciting times, isn't it?
Absolutely. So, Jamie, over the next 3 or 4 years, I do expect us to go down and see a launch down in Cornwall and go to a launch in Scotland.
I think it's going to happen.
Can you imagine saying that 4 years ago? That it would have
absolutely was unheard of.
And for those worrying about Brexit, by the way, I did read from another interview from that night that this is what Chris said about Brexit. He said, Brexit doesn't change the fact that Scotland is an excellent location to launch from. We are looking at what Brexit might mean from the business point of view, but we don't plan to leave Britain and go to Luxembourg, for example. Hopefully it will be resolved in an elegant way and not be a huge problem. There we go.
I'll tell you what I'd like to do, Matt. Before we leave the listeners to get on with their weekend, I would like to say a massive, and I can't overstate this enough, a massive thank you to our wonderful, handsome, beautiful Patreons who made our Orbex trip happen. We literally couldn't have gone without your donations. It meant that we got a little Airbnb in Forres. We were very close to each other. Matt snores a lot, but it made the trip happen. We were able to afford our flights and we got great interviews. So we want to say that you made that happen, and thank you.
Genuinely, we eked out every single penny of the Patreon money to make it go as far as it possibly could, and that we thought was one of the best ways we could have possibly have spent it. And we do totally appreciate the support. That's just utterly genius.
You guys made that happen, and
genuinely made that happen.
And if you want to join this elite team of legends, where can people go, Matt?
It's www.interplanetary.org.uk or www.patreon.com/interplanetary.
Matt, are there any extra benefits from being a Patreon?
Depending on, which scale you go on, you might get your T-shirt, you might get your mug, but you also get the odd super bonus bit of interview material that we haven't used on the show, and you get to join our Discord. And, if you go completely all out, you get to choose the direction of the show.
OMG.
Jamie, we should say goodbye because it's been a long podcast.
This has been long. We love you. Have a great Valentine's Day. Stay safe.
See you soon. Bye, Spodcats.
See ya. Bye.